In this video, we're going to talk about DeepSeek and what it means for the film industry,
Blackmagic's new RGBW sensor,
and what the US Copyright Office says about protecting AI work.
and finally, Eyeline Research Go with the Flow AI model.
Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome to VP Land. I'm Joey Dowd.
I'm Addy. Welcome back, and I'm really excited to have Joey back here, and we have a lot of things to cover.
We do have a lot of things to cover. So we're back in our topical format of just let's talk about what's happening. Unless you've been under a rock, DeepSeek is probably the biggest story in tech this week. Okay, groundwork. People probably have an understanding of what DeepSeek is or have heard of it. And we're not going to get, what I want to get into here is sort of how this could affect the media and entertainment industry.
Yep.
There are far better podcasts that are going to go into deep dives and articles of like the tech behind it and the business behind it. But overview, what's your understanding of how it came to be and what this model?
Yeah, so this is to me, it feels like a completely classic scenario in ingenuity with little resources. It sounds like under the pressure that a lot of the Chinese researchers are in with limited access to GPU, limited access to maybe a budget, and just even copying what is already out there, they're able to create a far more efficient model using way less resources that rivals and beats the US standards stuff from OpenAI, stuff from Google, and so on.
Stuff that's cost billions of dollars. So DeepSeek company, they trained a model that
Yeah.
they came out with that they said that cost about $5 million to train. A lot of doubt if that's the actual number, but I think the gist is it cost a lot less to train.
And it's open source. So researchers have downloaded DeepSeek and they've opened the hood version and it's legit.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
I think some of the caveats too, I think 'cause some of the headlines were like, well, why did we spend billions, trillions of dollars to train large language models?
Yeah.
And they did it, Tony Stark did it with a scrap of parts in the cave.
I love that meme.
Yeah.
It's so relevant.
The caveat though, I mean, they could not have done this without the
existing
AI
models.
ingenuity. The US ingenuity and investment that made this possible. And this probably seemed inevitable. Like, yes, models would get better, faster, cheaper in the future.
But
anyways.
that fast, that cheap.
Welcome to the AI game.
Look at that exponential leap. So I was just watching another video where there's different versions of R1, the product that DeepSeek
Right, so R1's
released.
the big model that caused all the stir. There are some other models I want to talk about that I think went under the radar, but so R1.
Yeah, so right now, in order to run a, let's say, ChatGPT 4, you need to run it on a supercomputer. So you're talking about tons of GPUs at the same time. This R1 model is so efficient that you can technically run it at home with a few machines with multiple GPUs. Right. And the video that I watched, there was an AI scientist. He had I think 3 servers in his garage. And each one of them had 2 NVIDIA GPUs, not the latest and greatest. And he was like, look, it's running live here. And he took a higher performance, almost like a quote unquote mobile version of R1. And he was able to run it on a Raspberry Pi.
Really?
It's insane how good it is. And that's why I think the cost savings come from the fact that you don't need that many GPUs to train it and that many GPUs to run it.
Yeah, and I think this opens up an opportunity too with Nvidia, which is coming out with Digits, their little Mac Mini-esque computer that they announced
Project
at CES.
Digit,
that's like a consumer desktop AI computer.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to Tim Porter, who is a CTO at Mod Labs and also contributes to VP Land. And I was asking him about Digits, and he's like, I want stacks of them. I don't think it's one's enough. Yeah. But this was before R1 was announced. I don't know what he says now, but I'm thinking maybe
my
one
guess is
enough
R1
for
can run
we could do a lot
on
more
one digit
than we thought. Yeah.
I think R1 can run on 1 digit. If it can do light level stuff on a Raspberry Pi, it can certainly run on a car. Fully real time. That's my guess. So what's interesting, and I think you've been following too, is the repercussion of the investors and the stock market and everything that just kind of blew up, and it needed to be blown up. The industry needed a little bit of calibration because everything was just hyperinflated. Yes, we need a 2 gigawatt data center. Yes, we need $100 billion model. And now it's do we?
Right. And I mean, I guess that's my other question of I guess because the thought was to keep progressing, you need to keep training bigger and bigger models.
Yeah.
And I've heard counter arguments to that where it's like, do we? And especially, and this is where I want to get into with media entertainment, bigger and better with data that you don't really know where it came from. Is that necessarily better? And does this provide, I don't know, more of a clearer route for what a lot of the media entertainment companies are trying to do anyways, which is like train their own models on their own cleared data. We had the Lionsgate Runway deal where they're training a Runway model just on Lionsgate IP. I've seen other reports of just like Disney or pretty much all the other companies are investing in just making their own models.
Yeah, 100%.
So that they know that it is all theirs.
Eric and I were covering this on the pod yesterday. The studios are really sensitive and secure with their data, and they probably won't allow it to go offshore, get trained on a model, and then bring the model back. They want to have everything happen within the four walls. And if DeepSeek is open source and all of the neural network body is there, and all you have to do is give it new training data, or just even a front end custom LoRa model or something just to pre-train it, then it absolutely could be done within studio walls. The repercussion for that is a lot of the big software companies like Adobe, Autodesk, even OpenAI are now probably doing enterprise grade products specifically for studios. This kind of upsets that business model, right? So now that you have this open source thing that somebody capable within a studio can leverage and make their own, why would they go out to Autodesk and get this multi-million-dollar deal signed?
Would they still want to, even if they you copied the open source model of R1, would they still want to use it, or is that still kind of too much of a black box? I mean, even some reports were saying like that DeepSeek probably used OpenAI's ChatGPT's data, and ChatGPT was saying they stole our stuff, but no one really feels bad for them because they also took stuff from everyone else.
But the thieves are complaining about.
Yeah, it's like a heist, modern version of the heist story. Everyone stealing from each other. But I guess is it would they actually use that model, or is it more just like proof of concept where it's like, look, you can do a lot more than we thought was possible with like less hardware and less powerful processors?
Yeah, let's be clear here. I don't think R1 is a generative model. It's not a stable diffusion model. So I'm just using it as an example here.
They do have Janus Pro.
Okay.
Which is their own sort of DALL-E competitor.
Okay.
So they did come out also with an image model, which went under the radar a bit more.
Yeah.
Output wise, I mean, it wasn't really anything impressive that I thought.
So not as impressive as R1.
Well, so I was trying to dig into like what is different about it. Okay, in the Janus model, it decoupled visual encoding. So unlike many other models that use the same visual encoder for both understanding, if you give it an image, what the image is, and then generating an image, if you say you want to generate an image, Janus and Janus Pro decouple the visual encoding process. This means that you use separate encoders for each task.
Yes.
So
when it goes into the latent space, the encoder is separate from the decoder. That's interesting. I think that would mean that the performance is probably going to be increased, because I'm just thinking out loud from like a video compression, decompression standpoint. Compression is always the more significant push, and decompression tends to be the easier because, you're going to decompress on a device or even in real time, so you don't have the GPU. That's a very interesting approach. I do like it. The only part that worries me is the patriotic side of me. And, I know I'm being really optimistic about this, but the other side of me is saying, look, America is losing its advantage on AI. And surely China is not going to stop innovating. And have they already beaten us? And what does that mean?
We're still so early in that.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on sort of just like a geopolitical?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, patriotic, Team America. So, but I know people call this like this is a Sputnik moment. And I mean, maybe in a sense of like, sure, it spurs even more innovation, more ideas. It's still so early.
It's too early.
It's so early to like really know what.
It's not over. Like, China has like those Tencent models, the foundational models. They're pretty good. Like, they have been competing 1-to-1 with the US for a while now, since this whole thing started. So yeah, they one-upped us for now. Maybe we'll one-up them in 6 months.
Yeah, or 6 days, 6 weeks. Who knows what it'll be in 6 months.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know the race is sort of on for like AGI, and that's the big kind of buzz of like, when we'll get there and who will get there first now, potentially.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, can we be in a world where there are 2 AGI models? I don't know what that looks like or what that.
Also, what is the cultural impact on the training? In US, we hold different values than they do in China.
Right. And DeepSeek was known, or people flagged, like, yes, if you ask it about sensitive topics about China, Tiananmen Square, it won't tell you.
Sure.
I mean, there's similar things with our models too. Like, if you ask it
who shot JFK
things or like racist things, like it won't do that. So like, these all have safeguards depending on who culturally, like what's acceptable for wherever it was trained.
Yeah.
But I mean, even this is a big shot with like large language models, but for video generation, there have been a handful of Chinese models that have
Hunyuan. Am I saying that right?
I don't even.
Yeah, Hunyuan is the one I like. Yeah.
And then that's Minimax, right? That's the same.
Yeah.
That's the same one. And then there's KLING.
KLING is great.
KLING, the KLING ingredient features where you give it a couple source images, and it generates a video has blown me away consistently.
I believe Flux might be Chinese.
I don't know.
Yeah. But that's the thing. You don't know what product you're using. You just go with what works and what's good. And they're all cloud-based.
They are all cloud. Yeah. As long as they have an English interface.
Exactly.
I can use it.
Yeah, I think one of the Tencent was in Chinese. I was like, I'm not going to translate this website. I'm good.
The one last thing about that user interface implications that I thought was interesting with DeepSeek is when you use it, it shows you its thought process of how it's thinking about things.
Saw that.
And people like that a lot. And so I'm wondering if that's also going to be like, we're going to see a whole UI change or just update in all these other models, showing you what it's thinking, which could also, I think, be much more useful, because right now you type out what you want, you get a response. And sometimes you're like, not really what I wanted. Yeah. But if you see how it got there, then you could be like, oh, you're thinking of this wrong, or you misunderstood what I was trying to say here.
Yeah.
Let me reprompt you, and you could get a better understanding.
Like an advanced user mode.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, I see where you like got derailed. Yeah. Let me clarify that, which I think would be useful both for large language models, but also if there's an adaptation or way to implement that in video generation models too, where it's like, oh, this was not the video I wanted. But if I see how you got to this conclusion, I can try to, fix my prompt or how I interact better.
I absolutely think DeepSeek is going to open the door to that for other models. Now we're all going to want to peek under the hood.
Yeah, I want to see what
I think we're past the first phase of like, oh, this is cool. And now we're like, no, I need the right result. I need the right answer.
Yeah. So control is like the buzzword, the main theme, I think, for this year. It's like, we know we could do these things, but now we need the control. Definitely applies for video generation.
Oh yeah. I mean, pixel by pixel control.
I'm tired of like text prompts. Something I can give me something I could steer a camera.
Especially in our industry, we have, pixel efforts. People, and rightfully so, it's their job to go pixel by pixel on a frame, every frame in a movie. Yeah. And make sure it's all good.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it's exactly.
Scan every line. Yeah.
Rotoscoping, color grading, compositing. I mean, you're talking about these trades that people literally pour pixel over pixel detail for. So absolutely, if we can't have that level of control, it's just not going to be usable for the mainstream.
Speaking of control and sensors, other big story that, it's a combo. There's a big story this week and their price drop, and a new video from Team 2 Films that I thought was really interesting about the Blackmagic URSA Cine 12K camera, which that camera is not new. It was announced at NAB. We did a bunch of videos about it when they announced it, and it's been out shipping in the wild for a few months now. What I didn't realize was that they built a completely new sensor and sensor technology. Yeah. And then the recent news this week is that they didn't price drop. The original kit was about 15 grand, which is still pretty remarkably cheap for a high-end cinema camera that they're trying to, release out in the world. But that came with like a Pelican case. It came with like shoulder rig. It came with a bunch of accessories.
Okay.
That was how they sold it. I think it was
onboard monitor.
I think that was still like, maybe no, the viewfinder was extra too. I don't think it came with a monitor.
Okay.
But it came with their 8 terabyte.
Oh. Like high speed storage.
Their high speed,
like
their new proprietary
SSD maybe.
It's their own, looks like the Ghostbusters kind of like.
It has a handle on it?
Yeah, it has a little handle. You pop it in. Their media storage card thing that's 8 terabytes.
So they're going to sell the reader for that as well, I'm sure. Like the dock.
There's a rack mountable, like 3 dock version.
Okay, it's what like Blackmagic does with the Hyperdeck, maybe.
It's similar. Yeah. The Hyperdeck can just take regular SSDs, but this is like a new format thing.
Yeah.
Anyways, the kit came with that. I think it was a user swappable lens mount. And it came with all of the options, I believe.
Oh, nice.
So like if you wanted to swap out like LF,
you don't have to send it to manufacturer.
No, you just do it yourself. And you don't have to pick which version you want. So it was a lot of really cool options. So anyways, now they announced you could just buy the body. If you're like, I already have all of the accessories, I don't need the other stuff. You can just buy the body for $7 grand.
Joey, this feels like they're giving it away for free. Like, what is their cost at the end of the day? It's very aggressive they want this in the hands of proper filmmakers.
And that's used on projects and making films.
Why is it that every time, like when the FX9 came out or, the Alexa 4K came out, the Komodo X came out, like that makes such big splash in our community. People go crazy. And then when something like this comes out, it's like,
I don't understand. I mean, I know there is some of a reputation of like Blackmagic stuff being cheap.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's not for like real filmmakers.
Cheap quality. Right. Or it's like for, beginners or something. But I don't know why that stigma has, I mean, the only thing I can think of is that I know that stigma is from around some of the earlier broadcasting and hardware. But if you compare their things to a Ross or Grass Valley, I'm not as much in the broadcasting world, and I know like that's a very demanding world where you like cannot have hardware failure and you have to have stuff running 24/7.
One company that I always compare to Blackmagic, especially on the broadcast side, is Aja or AJA.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas a Blackmagic converter, like a little Pico converter, would be $300, the same thing with Aja would be $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then the same thing with a Grass Valley or a proper broadcast company would be like $7,000-8,000. And they all work. I mean, maybe the Blackmagic might overheat if you just keep it on for a year, but it gets the job done for 99% of the people. Always love their business model from the very beginning. It's the 90-10 model. So give the consumers 90% of a product that is premium for 10%. And that's exactly what they're doing with the URSA, right? So 10% of the price, which would be $150,000 camera with all that kit. And that's what a Venice 2 is, right? If you put a Venice 2, body is probably $75,000 or so, plus the memory, plus all the rigs and everything, you're looking at, 10x the price of an URSA. Now, are they the same? No, of course, Venice is better.
It's been noted. I mean, yes, the Aries and the Sonys, they have higher dynamic range.
Yeah.
They are also 2 to 5 times the cost.
Yeah. So I think there's three things I'm going to say that's holding Blackmagic back, in my opinion, just to get better market penetration into the pro filmmaker world. One is the body on the URSA is still just clunky and bulky, and it just doesn't look good. And it's also
bigger than a Komodo. Yeah, I mean, it's not like I mean, they did come out with the Pixis, which was their sort of answer to like a more boxy, formattable camera, but that's more in line with like the 6K Pro.
Yeah.
And those sensors.
By the time you rig that up, you put your battery, you put your, focus, all of that fizz and everything, you're looking at a giant thing versus,
it is a cinema camera, which they're like, it is for cinema stuff. Yeah. So it's not a run and gun setup.
So I think the engineering hurdle to miniaturize that thing would be significant, and it would drive the price up of manufacturing and things like that. So that's probably why it's $15,000 with that format. Okay. Number 2, I think it's marketing, branding, perception. That it is important in every segment, not just for automobiles, not just for furniture, but also for cameras. I compare it to the Hyundai Kia issue, right? Growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, Hyundais and Kias were not great cars. They were just entering the US market, but they were really cheap. They were cheaper even than Toyotas and Hondas, right? And then over the last 5 to 6 years, they've really grown up. And now you have EVs that are rivaling Tesla. You have luxury brands, that are rivaling Mercedes. If it still has a Hyundai or Kia on the badge, you're not going to pay $90,000 for a car when you can just get a Mercedes. So Hyundai mitigated that issue by creating Genesis, which is its own separate brand. And now Genesis has its own dealership, which is next to the Hyundai dealership. It's probably the same people running it. But now it feels like, okay, I'm buying into this thing that is not a Hyundai, and I am going to pay $90,000 for it. I think there may be a Blackmagic premium label.
I mean, I think maybe they've been trying to do that with like the URSA label versus the Pocket label. Like the Pocket was always kind of a bit more towards like entry level, accessible, and URSA was always the kind of this higher.
You can't find a Hyundai Kia logo on a Genesis car, and the websites are different.
But I mean, that's interesting you say that, because I don't know. From my perception, it's like I never really perceived Blackmagic as like even though just they're marketing, their branding, it always feels high end. And I don't know if that's a more recent thing because of like whatever my experience of 10, 12, 13 years, going more depth with this and being at NEB.
Okay, let me ask you this then. What's lower end than Blackmagic as a camera?
I don't know if I would say it's a specific manufacturer, but more of like models. Like I would feel like the Lumix, as much as I love Panasonic and the Lumix line, feels lower end,
right?
Then I mean the body builds are plasticky.
Everything else feels higher end, doesn't it? Like even a Red, which is so similarly priced.
Yeah, again, I guess because they've just really
Red is just cooler.
Focused on. I mean, but I think of the Red one, and that was like camera.
But I'm saying just from a strictly branding perspective, like what I mean,
I think it's because the other ones have so many options. I mean, it's like I would kind of perceive like the Blackmagic, like the Pocket Cinema cameras, as like higher than like an A7 Mark, whatever. I always mix up the Sony lines, but is it a Burano or is it a Venice? No, but it's all Sony.
Yeah.
But they have a variety of lower end cameras and higher end cameras.
I've been to sets.
Cine Alta, which is their they have a different separate sort of sub brand.
Yes. The Verona, I think, is part of Cine Alta. Yeah. So the Verona is their mid, but I'm sure you can relate. You go on set and the DP has a Venice 2 that he's, rigging up, and everybody just pauses and looks at it. It's like when car people go to a car show and there's this very limited edition Rolls Royce. Everybody that's the sort of aura around the Venice 2. And a lot of it has to do with price and availability and difficulty in using it, and also superior image quality and just preference by DPs. Right, like all those, I think Blackmagic has to maybe get behind a few DPs and have them ambassador the brand. Yeah,
and I think that's probably a big push of like why not a price drop, but why make it available at a lower price as a body only.
Having said all that, I am in love with this camera, especially because
I really want to use it and try it out.
I took a little bit of semiconductor physics in college, and I just know that it's super difficult to design it. Yeah.
No, so I set this up at the beginning, and we have not talked about the sensor at all.
Oh, so, sure. Okay. Yeah, pitch it.
You know more about color science. So explain debayering process and sort of how most existing sensors work this way.
Yeah.
And then from what you know about how Blackmagic has changed this with a new type of sensor.
Sure. So all of our imaging is essentially going to go from photons of light down to 3 channels, red, green, and blue. And so in the past, during the early days of digital sensors, there used to be a prism in front of 3 sensors, and it would split the light into red, green, and blue.
3 CCD.
3 CCD, 3 CMOS, and those were tiny too. Those were like 1/4 inch, 3/4 inch, because that's all you could do back then. And then it was just a matter of, mathematically, you just more or less add them up because they're operating in their own frequency, in their own wavelength, and so on. So now we have one giant sensor, and within that giant sensor, there are 3 photosites. So a red photosite, green photosite, and blue photosite times however many pixels you have diagonally. And you receive the photons hit the photosites, then it generates voltage. Each different for each color, and you can more or less debayer it. So you would have to figure out what the interference from the green channel is versus the red versus the blue.
But the Bayer pattern has twice as many green.
Yes, so
photon
it's
sensors.
It's a little bit like how our eyes and our retinas work. Like we have more cones than rods because we want to detect more differences in bright and dark versus differences in color. And so the sensors also put more preferences on, I think, green more than red and blue is the least, something like that. And then in the end, what they output is going to look uniform. Blackmagic introduced a fourth photosite, white.
So it is an RGBW sensor.
Yes, times however many pixels, and it's insane. The challenge is now that white picks up red, green, and blue, right? All of the wavelengths. So now how do you take the value of white and then distill it down to each of the other three and contribute to it rather than interfere with it? So the white value alone will probably overload and blow up the red, green, and blue values. So you have to like take what's important in the white value, however you filter it or process it, and then contribute to the red. Because ultimately the signal that goes out is not going to have any white in it. As it goes down into your media pipe and into the processing unit of the camera, the white is just going to be at the capture site and then contribute to the red, green, and blue. And then like whatever you're recording on disk, ProRes, RAW format, that's not going to have any white in it.
These will only record Blackmagic RAW.
Yeah. So maybe Blackmagic has made room for a W channel, but as soon as it hits Resolve or Premiere, there is no white data. Right. So the white data has to be used to enhance the image, then go away.
Okay. So it's like they have these white sensors or these white photons, but like, how are they using that data to?
Yeah. I'll give you the flip side of it.
color.
And like, I think you and I cover a lot of LED processors and panels and, you know, RAW, Epson, I think AOTA as well. Now they have the RGBW panels. The issue is the incoming signal, like an HDMI signal, SDI signal, is still RGB. So how are they creating the white? So they're doing the inverse of Blackmagic. So they're creating white from RGB values. They're like, okay, based on these three values, I think the white value should be this. And they're then sending that down into the LED panel.
And so it's like doing the reverse, where it's like, well, based on the values of the photons around this white photon, what do we think this white photon should be?
Yes. And does it actually make the image better on the LED panel? Right? Or does it just blow up and it's just like you're seeing more white than red, green, and blue and all the colors? So it's a really complicated color science algorithm problem that is, I'm sure you can figure out different versions of it on paper. However, to actually run it in real time on that many pixels at the same time, you're talking about more compute that's needed. And so the camera has to be slightly bigger. The central processing unit on the camera has to be more beefy. It's going to consume more battery.
I think that's also partly why they have this proprietary 8 terabyte media card deck.
I bet you the raw data probably does have the white channel in it still. Like it probably remains there. And then the minute you convert it into a conform standard like ProRes, it goes away. We can ask Blackmagic about, hey, Blackmagic, please comment and let us know. We're very curious, and we applaud you for going in this way.
We'll build up a list of questions I'll ask him at NAB this year. As far as how the sensor and everything works, so Team 2 Films, they had a really phenomenal video kind of breaking down the science and animating how these sensors work. The practical application of all this stuff, like what does this mean for actual filmmakers and why is this good, so it is a 12K camera. There are arguments, or it's like, what do you need to shoot for 12K unless you're shooting like plates for an LED wall or VFX shots or something. But it will, you can adjust the settings and shoot 8K, 4K, which is common in other cameras. With a bare sensor, how do those cameras handle down sampling if you're shooting at a lower resolution? Because you give up some stuff.
I did see that video, and I think the way the Blackmagic, the new sensor, handles it is from a group of pixels, it creates a cell. So let's say 6 and then each of those cells represent a pixel on the lower res version. right?
And it's basically still able to use the entire sensor.
Yeah.
Which contrasts to, but the other way, if you're shooting with another camera.
Yeah, on a traditional camera, you either pixel skip. So you go from 12K to 6K by skipping every other pixel, or you pixel crop. So you just use the middle 50% of the sensor.
That is annoying because then all of your lenses, everything, your image is now tighter. And so you lose your wider field of view.
100%. And the problem with pixel skipping is you just turned up the aliasing and moire by 2x or 3x.
Right,
because
so, I think details like this would probably go crazy on a downsampled
and then also some cameras will take the whole image and then downsample 12K to 6K using math. But that also takes up GPU and CPU power. I don't think cameras have GPUs, but it takes CPU power. And that's not efficient either. So with Blackmagic's cell arrangement, you're still using every single bit of those photosites. You're capturing all those photons. You're just not losing any quality.
Yeah, and that's the biggest benefit. Like I think tactile benefit of filmmakers, where it's like, okay, you could have this camera, but you could just shoot 4K.
It can resolve the fine details.
You're not losing detail. You're not giving up. You're not losing your field of view. You're not really giving up anything.
Yeah.
Which makes this a very versatile camera.
Yeah. The other, I would imagine, and I'm not 100% sure because I haven't played with the camera yet. Please send me one. But having that extra W sensor on each photosite would give you amazing low-level performance because you're not just capturing this thin slice of the wavelength of the spectrum. You're capturing the entire thing. A W is going to be the whole thing. So you're just letting all this light in versus, every thin strips of the wavelength. So my guess is at night, it probably looks great.
Yeah. There was some tests in the Team 2 film of night shots. I thought it was there was a 3200 ISO.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit noisy, still usable. But I'd be curious. I would feel like also and this is something I've been kind of wondering a bit about when we think of camera workflows now and sort of what happens in the camera and what happens on the computer, because if you're shooting Blackmagic with Blackmagic RAW and then you go into Resolve, part of the argument would be like, well, the Resolve has really good machine learning noise reduction filters. And it's sort of a bit of splitting up the process of image capturing of some stuff is handled on the camera and some stuff maybe you think about and just handle on a beefier processor on your computer
if you want
to get that really good final image.
100%. If you want to users in the Blackmagic ecosystem, and you should, because you made them buy this camera, you better make sure they use Resolve and then upload to cloud. I would do it that way.
Yeah, I've gotten sucked into the ecosystem. They have 100% pulled the Apple model and sucked me. Yeah, between going to Resolve, Blackmagic RAW, cameras. Yeah,
I bet you I'm just guessing here, but the denoiser in Resolve is probably fine tuned to the Blackmagic RAW format.
I don't know, but I would not be surprised if the training
if
images
it
on
reads the metadata and it knows there is a W channel from this camera. Oh, it recognizes the camera. Then it auto adjusts itself to denoise exactly that. Hopefully that
it could be like that. I mean, one of the biggest things I like about B-RAW and shooting on their cameras is their cameras have gyro sensors in them, and it records the position of the camera in the B-RAW file. And then you could use that to stabilize, and it is a phenomenal stabilization because it's using real data, not trying to, you don't get the weird warpy effect because it's using actual.
Is that just with B-RAW or can it do other RAW?
I don't know if it could do it if you're shooting Red RAW, do Red cameras have sensors in them that it records?
Red has a media player, but it doesn't have I don't think it has an image stabilization.
I mean, is it recording any data on that?
Probably,
positional data?
I think that's pretty standard for a lot of high-end cameras.
Okay.
Yeah.
High-end camera. High-end camera. Yeah, this is a $1,500 4K has these sensors in them. Blackmagic.
Look, I have an URSA here. You can see it. It makes me want to upgrade, and of course, makes me want to go out and shoot stuff. I think where the rubber meets the road will be when you hear about something like a creator where they used an FX3, or Civil War where they used the DJI 4D camera. Yeah. If there is a major Hollywood feature that used the URSA 12K.
It'll happen. I'm sure.
I think that's when we're going to be like, oh shit, that's a serious camera.
The 4D got so much attention, the Ronin. Because I remember, I think even if I remember correctly, going all the way back to the first Captain America, I believe they used one of the first Blackmagic Pocket cameras as a crash cam.
Yeah.
For a few shots, for like putting on the car, like the Jeep that smashed into another Jeep.
Yeah.
Because the Ronin 40 got a lot of attention, but that was for like a handful of shots. It wasn't like they shot the whole film on it.
Yeah, I think a lot of the like car shots.
Or was it like the kind of war photojournalist POV kind of stuff of like following.
Makes sense.
Because I'm a F1 fanatic. I did notice, and they've been shooting the Brad Pitt movie that's coming out this year at real races last year. And so I'll see the clips, behind the scenes clips, people like at real races, but they're like, look, Brad Pitt was like acting it out, and they're like acting out the stuff. But I did notice they had the Ronin 40 on some of those, shooting some of those shots where they were like in the real melee of the race and chaos, but Brad Pitt's acting like a real racer, and then there's like the crew following him. But like it was
there's a driver in front of Brad Pitt that's driving the car, and he's just
that was different driving. Stuff. The stuff they did at the race was like at the real races was like taking advantage of having all of the racers and the crew there. So like I saw a behind the scenes clip, or it was a real life clip, but for the film, where he was on the podium and like getting an award with like real racers next to him, but it's Brad Pitt accepting the fake award. Or like Brad Pitt pulls up in his car in Mexico and then like gets out, like he won the race and is like waving to the crowd. So like those clips where they shot him as a real racer at a real racing event, but it was for the movie. Yeah.
And you can't bring a giant camera rig there with the crew. Like you got to be stealth, right?
Yeah. And I mean, in that case too, you could also probably have someone else further away,
remotely controlling
controlling the actual framing of the camera, while someone else is just the operator is like, just
we can camera geek out for forever. One more camera geek moment I'll give you. The Sony Rialto. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, where you take the cable and you can have
the sensor is separate from the body.
Yeah.
So they use that for Top Gun, right? All the shots where Tom Cruise is flying, it's just sensors in front of him and the body is elsewhere. Mm-hmm. I thought for F1 that would have been perfect for Brad Pitt. Like F1 cars are so tight.
I mean, I know they built a lot of custom rigs for the race.
Yeah.
Cars and scenes, whatever they did, which I'm sure will a lot more than behind the scenes stuff once the film's out. And also same director. Anyways, what's his name? Top
Gun director.
Whose name I can't remember.
I'm blanking on his name.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. There was one thing with the new less expensive, the body only price that they did announce that it comes with, is that you don't just need the proprietary 8 terabyte media dock or media card system, which resells for $1,700 a card. Okay. They have a new adapter, fits in the same slot, but you can put 2 CF Express cards in it.
Okay.
So that's also nice too, because it makes it more accessible.
A lot of people already own CF Express,
which they're not cheap. But like that is nice, and you could also now use cards you already have. You don't have to purchase the expensive.
Working on the 5G telecom side of things, like I think Sony might have a card that goes into one of their high-end broadcast cameras that takes the raw format and then sends it over 5G or over Wi-Fi to be recorded somewhere else.
Oh, and without losing quality?
Yeah, in raw format.
This has a 10G Ethernet.
So maybe able to do that? I don't know.
I think that was more for like just a faster way to offload.
Yeah.
The large data sets. It's if you don't buy their data rack to plug the cards into. Yeah, interesting.
But ultimately, we are going to go away from physical media in high-end cameras. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, so I mean, I know that's sort of been the prediction for a while, like especially with the Frame.io camera to cloud, and Blackmagic has their own. For something like this, the camera to cloud workflow probably a bit more for proxies to cloud.
Proxies to cloud, not raw to cloud.
But you think eventually,
raw to cloud. That was the whole promise of 5G, right? Is like right now your phone is, I think 10 megabytes a second to the network. 5G at its best is supposed to be gigabytes, right? Like 2-3 gigabytes a second. So it is good enough to do raw if your rest of your cloud infrastructure can, at least the RF part can handle it.
Expensive from what I know data costs to be right now. But if that comes down.
The challenge with 5G is cell coverage. So whereas, with 4G and the legacy towers, one tower can cover like a area, 5 square mile area, something like that, massive. 5G, because it's multi-band, multi-channeled, you have to have like a farm of towers surrounding your area, and then the phone will connect to multiple.
Oh, okay. So
they're more distributed,
like bonding, like
cellular bonding, something. Yeah. So that's like, especially at a Super Bowl game where every camera will have a 5G interface card.
Yeah,
you're going to need a lot of cell coverage.
They bring in their own extra towers and stuff for something like that?
Dude, I can get into the 5G stuff is so fascinating. So I think you saw.
That's probably not.
Yeah, you have to buy the bandwidth from the government, from FCC, and there is bids on it. So Verizon bought like slice band C or whatever for like $50 billion.
Oh, so they just own that.
They just own that band in America. Nobody can be on that band. Yeah, like the FAA, you know why they say don't use 5G phones when a plane is landing,
Yeah.
I think the FAA owns a band for plane traffic that is close to the C band or something like that.
Oh, and they just don't want to have any risk any interruptions. Interesting. Is something like Starlink going to blow this all up?
I don't think so. I think you're dealing with limitations of physics and light and speed of light. That satellite is still like, I don't know, however, 10 miles up. And divide that by speed of light, you're talking a few microseconds less than if a cell tower is right there 1,000 feet. So yeah, you can't beat the speed of light. So I think all satellite-based links will be inherently capped by how far they are.
Last thing I wanted to ask about for virtual production.
Oh yeah,
going back to the URSA.
Yeah,
do you see it being a good option for not shooting the plates? That's seems like a good option, but like acquisition, like filming. Because I remember, I don't know if they've come out with another version, but they had with the previous URSA, the G2 or whatever, that version that I think did have a 12K version, but their old sensor, they had an optical low pass filter version that they were trying to make it better for virtual production.
Really? I missed that. Yeah. That's
so so I guess that was not on your radar. Does that improve? Does that help when shooting with like LED walls, and does it make a difference?
Here's the thing with LED volumes. By the time it's all said and done and you built the stage, you're a few $1 million in. At that point, you're not going to put a cheap camera on that tripod. Like, you're going to want something that is tried and true and proven, because that's the last thing you want to have to worry about. You're already thinking about LED tiles and the angle of view and the color space, and then the media server and how it can play back media, or Unreal running, and if the scene is optimized. There are so many variables. You don't want to have an extra variable on, is the Blackmagic camera going to be okay? No, I'm just going to get a Venice 2. I'm just going to get Arri Alexa, because I've already spent $2 million.
Well, I guess is this going back to your like tier one, your like high end kind of thing? Because I feel like I've seen the URSA as like a big go-to camera on a lot of volumes. I was Global Objects. I was filming there yesterday, and that was like their stage camera. I'm sure they bring in other cameras if they have other things, but that was like camera. That was their camera on the stage.
Also, like 90% of the time, the DP is going to bring their camera, right? So the camera that you have in stage is going to be just a test camera at best. And the Red Komodos have done a really good job of being ubiquitous with VP, whether Red wanted to or not, because they're global shutter and they support all types of Genlock. So even if the low light performance is not that great, they're just synonymous with VP. And I think you may see an URSA 12K here and there, but like the cameras have been bought and they've been placed in the stage already.
For the existing infrastructure.
The land has been grabbed.
All right. Yeah. Well, we'll see how that plays out. And then, that isn't out yet too, but they also have the 17K camera that is coming out, which is like their 65 millimeter equivalent.
Yeah.
And just from what was on their website, is the same RGBW sensor.
Just a giant photo site. Yeah.
I assume you'd have the same benefits of like 17K, 12K, 8K, 4K.
I would imagine if you pair. Now, I don't know how the exact results would look like, but if you have RGBW panels and you pair that with the RGBW sensor, there may be some, a better transmission to capture a W cell on a LED tile transmitting W, and then a W photo site picking up the W. And maybe there's some extra fidelity to be had, but that's a very cool test to do.
Just a big W, big win.
Yeah, just like, here's my white. Got your white.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, maybe we can See if we can get some gear to test that. Okay, we definitely went on a lot of time about Blackmagic URSA cameras, but cameras are always fun to talk about.
Yeah.
One last interesting thing that came out this week. The U.S. Copyright Office issued a report on AI and some clarification of what can be copyright protected with AI or using AI tools, which is a huge benefit because this has also kind of been a kind of wait and see with everyone of like, can we protect this work if we use AI tools? So the gist of it is works created solely by AI without human input cannot be copyrighted, which I don't feel like that's much of a surprise. If the computer made something by itself. Does the computer
even know what it made?
Right.
Yeah.
A human AI hybrid. So copyright protection applies to human authored elements. So if you had a human involved, you're editing a movie, a film, you used Respeecher or something.
Yeah.
A human was involved. It was derivative. It can be copyright protected. AI assisted works must show, quote, sufficient creative control by humans. So human needs to have an input.
Yeah.
Which I feel like this makes sense.
Totally makes sense. And just to go back to the first thing that you said, where if it's 100% machine output with no human intervention, it can't be copyrighted. Well, God, I hope so.
Yeah,
because like there's going to be a lot of that, right? I think there will be
that issue with the monkey that took the selfie, and there was a debate on could the photo be copyright protected by the monkey, and I think it wasn't because it was
monkey's
a monkey.
Not a human. Yes, yeah, I think the monkey knows what a court of law is.
Monkey and computers in the one bucket, and then humans in the other bucket.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, there's going to be a future where AI models will train on AI data. Mm-hmm. Like, generative AI images and videos will get so good that you could pass those for training set data.
I mean, yeah, it's another thing now, synthetic data, when there isn't enough, or they use all the data, or they don't have access to data, or they want cleared data that they know it's copyright issues, you do synthetic data.
So the interesting thing there would be like, okay, so let's say this data center in Norway spit out 2 petabytes of images that are now just on the internet. I think anybody can grab it because they're not copywritten.
Oh, like they made synthetic data.
Yeah,
put it
it's 100% machine output.
Yeah, it seems. Yeah, that synthetic data itself would not be copyright, but a human then use that on a mom thing.
Yeah. Or a human went through every one of those photos and then just conformed it to 8-bit Rec 709 color space, like something really basic like that. Now there's human intervention. So now
I'm sure this is going to be a debatable thing in the future of like, well, how much human intervention?
Yes.
Because like I had a question of like, well, what if they were like, you can't copyright protect prompts, which I guess I can understand that.
Yeah.
But if you spit out solely just an image, you make a prompt, you spit out an image from Midjourney.
Yeah.
I don't think my interpretation was, I don't think that image could be copyright protected if you just spit it out.
My guess is Midjourney, first of all, owns it. Like you probably
some of these tools, depending on what plan you buy, they're like, it says commercial.
It's for commercial use.
There's commercial use licensed on some of these tools, depending on what plan you're purchasing.
So I would imagine if you paid for a Midjourney subscription and you generate an image of a llama, then you own the rights to that llama.
I think so. I mean, you made the prompt, it spit it out.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I always go back to Unreal Engine and how their license is structured because I understand that.
Yeah. How does that work?
So basically, there's 2 types of use. One is entrepreneurial freelance use. Like, hey, I'm just doing this as a hobby. Go for it. It's free. Like if you make a movie out of Unreal or game out of Unreal,
pay us.
Yeah. Then and then hit some kind of app store, then I think it's like 5%. But the game IP itself you own. So you would own the Unreal Engine scene, the project. But the minute that it is running on Unreal Engine on a mobile device or whatever, then they have rights to that royalty. Does that make sense?
They have rights to the royalty. They don't own the IP.
They don't own the IP. So you you've built like you have this crazy game where a bunch of monkeys are taking cell phones, right? And you're like, no, I own the rights to that Monkeyland game, but minute Monkeyland runs on, 100,000 iPhones, then that generates whatever revenue through in-app purchasing. Epic has 5% dibs.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, maybe
Makes
there'll be
sense.
some model with AI tools in the future.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there'll still be cases of like sorting out if you make the prompt yourself, but you spit out the image and you don't modify the image. Is the image copyright protectable? If you take the image and then run it into like Runway and turn the image from Midjourney into a video from Runway, is that human intervention enough to?
Yeah, I think so.
To copyright protect that
for sure
video output?
You're just using tools to get to what your output desirable output is.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this all ties into.
I mean, I applaud the Copyright Office for staying relevant and staying up to all the stuff that's happening.
And I think there's also the other note was like copyright applicants must disclose AI use and specify human contributions.
That's tricky.
So you need to track your process, which I think this is also going to get into like, you really need to have documentation of like what you did, which is it's not something
I mean, you would have to open up the image metadata and then just see like if the metadata has any sort of coverage of what it's been through, right? Yeah, I doubt it. And this is the stuff that a lot of the bigger companies like Adobe is working on is metadata driven protection, or at least recognition that it's touched by an AI system.
Yeah. And also the vice versa, which we mentioned last time of like, if you take a photo with a real camera or shoot video with a real camera, sort of watermark in that invisible watermark to verify that it was shot with the
also just to have the control of, hey, I don't consent to this image that I took to be trained, be training data for any AI models.
Right.
Can that be built into the metadata?
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we're going to want it because artists are really precious about their creative work, as they should be. And if they don't want to be part of a training model set, then they have the right to opt out. So how do you scale that? How do you do it for billions and trillions of images? I think the image formats themselves would have to adapt and change for that. Like the JPEG image format, the PNG image format, all that stuff would have to have built in.
Yeah, well, I mean, good to have the report. Still a bit of the Wild West.
Yeah.
And a lot of this goes to the root, too, of what with movie studios and what they want to do with AI. Of even if the output's copyright protectable, they still might not touch something with like a Midjourney or where the data sets are unknown of like where they got the information from, or if it was trained on copyright protected material.
What about a Chinese movie studio?
Don't think they would care as much. I mean, I mean, it's just a different, IP is just kind of looked at differently there than we treat it in the US.
How long do you think before we see like a major feature film that acknowledges a use of AI? Other than the Brutalist.
That acknowledges.
Yeah.
As like I think the line is like where like an AI generated character.
Yeah. I mean, or background or like actual pixels on the film. It's coming up.
Everything everywhere all at once. Vocal, they used Runway for their effects to create.
Oh, really?
Stuff. Yeah.
For in movie use or previs?
Pretty sure it's in the movie. I'm pretty sure some of the effects in the movie.
Okay.
Used Runway.
Yeah.
Final Pixel.
Okay.
I just don't think I think it was like more of a novelty back then, and AI wasn't as contentious as it is
today. They got away with it.
It was like, it was a weird movie. Yeah.
I'm talking about like a major studio, like with a major film like Captain America. That's probably not going to happen anytime soon.
If it does, they probably won't talk about it, especially after list.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of the Brutalist, we have our first correction to issue.
Please.
So yes, thank you. I'm just go mix user on YouTube had pointed out on the Lex Friedman podcast, we incorrectly said that Respeecher was used to translate the voices into English. It was 11 Labs.
11 Labs. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, and I went on the Respeecher X account, and there was a tweet with Lex Friedman's face and Zelensky's face. It was very misleading. So
they did participate in that conversation, but it was not their software that was used. It was 11 Labs.
Yeah.
Which does...
sounds great.
Similar stuff. Yeah. I mean, 11 Labs is great too. Yeah. I feel like Respeecher is a bit more, has focused more on like kind of movie production side. 11 Labs is a bit more user interface
You know, side topic, there's also an AI company called 12 Labs.
Yep, I know. Yeah. Yeah. We've talked to them a few times. Okay. Yeah. Totally different. Totally separate. They
different
do,
product.
Image, video identification and tagging.
Categorization.
They're cool because they train on actual videos, because they're like, a lot of the models, when you're trying to categorize videos or sentiment, it's just trained on the transcripts of the videos and not actually trained on the images of the videos. And they had their own models that were trained on the videos.
Have you seen the Eyeline research paper on what they call go with the flow?
Oh, is this Netflix?
Yeah, so Eyeline is now part of Netflix. A bunch of geniuses under one roof.
It's like a research lab, or like kind of.
Yeah, they're a VFX studio, but they also have a very strong research side to them. If you know who Paul Debayering is, he is like a legendary VFX artist, researcher. Really nice guy. I see him at events all the time. He is their chief research officer, I believe. So just like Disney research in Zurich, Eyeline research once in a while will drop some knowledge on us. And this one was a really useful innovation in our space. The problem that we now have going from image to video is the motion tends to be inconsistent. And they solve for it by using both optical flow and something called warped noise. So optical flow is, I think, it's a little bit more old school. You have optical flow built into Premiere and Resolve. So when you do
an option, if you're like want to do slow motion,
yes,
how does it
figure out the interpolation?
Right, the new frames that you're making.
Yeah, so how it figures it out is, I think it's not using any AI there. It's old school, machine computer vision. So it'll detect features in your frame and then the two frames, and then it'll sort of fill in between, because it just knows where the major features are. So optical flow, nothing new, I don't think. Warped noise is really cool. And
so what is that?
Let me take a step back. Stable diffusion models are built around noising and denoising. I think you know that. So when a model is trained, you give it an image and you add noise to it, and the neural network learns how to remove the noise without removing the image. And you do this millions and billions and trillions of times, and then this neural network is now a denoiser on steroids. So feeding noise with your data is just like food for the neural network. Oh God. Now they've fed a new type of noise called warped noise. So if you look at a single frame of that noise, it just looks like noise. You look at the next frame, just looks like noise. But if you play it in a video, you could see there is 3D features in that noise that's moving around. So like if you have a coffee mug warped noise and you play the video, you'll see the coffee mug in there. It's a
kind of like those like magic eye.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the pattern, and then it's like it's a 3D effect.
I've gotten so many headaches from those things when I was a kid. But yes, exactly that. So to the average eye, it just looks all like noise. But then when it's playing back as a video, you're like, oh my God, I could see features. So how they generate that warped noise, I don't really understand. But okay, they did it, and then they feed that warped noise along with their like a very rough video guide. Like a cat moving down a tree, something like that. And then the solve for it comes out so much better than what it would without the warp noise and the.
Okay.
It's brilliant. So brilliant.
I know they had a paper. Is it available to like? That's the gap for me. Always like I see these things come out and I see like clips on X and a paper, but I'm like, well, okay. I mean, how do I use that?
I would imagine that's like a Netflix competitive advantage in the war of like having the best AI tool. So although Disney research does drop, research papers that lay it all out
with like a big de-aging, age modification, because there was de-aging and aging faces,
age altering.
Yeah, age altering. They had a big paper last year. I remember that one.
Yes,
and.
So Eyeline Research did drop the entire thing. But I think if you have enough understanding of building AI systems, you could probably put it together. But I bet you where you'd get stuck is generating that warp noise model.
And that sounds like a model they train.
Yeah, because you could probably use like a control net on top of an existing model. Like you can put a control net in front of Flux and then feed the warp noise and the video to it and then have it generate the nice result. But then how do you generate the warp noise?
Cool. All right, we'll end on a mystery bonus story, mystery note there.
Yeah, I mean, let's just take a step back. And in our world of M&E, I think it's really cool to see that studios have big brains that are working on tough problems.
Yeah.
They're not just hanging back and letting OpenAI do all the problem solving. They're actively doing a lot of that.
And it's interesting. I mean, I'm sure there's just so much happening in these studios too that we just don't know.
We just don't know about.
Because it's like their competitive advantage. Like they don't need to share it.
It's also so sensitive, right? With everything politically.
Yeah. And they're not trying to build consumer-facing tools. They're trying to build competitive tools internally to
train on their own better data. Like how many thousands of hours of footage does Netflix have, right? That they own, that they licensed. Yeah. So they can build something kick-ass all internal. We would never.
All right, cool. Well, that was fun, Addy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next episode.